Hello everybody, John 12 back here again with another video. Yes, I am back officially from my long vacation over at Chicago and Las Vegas. It was very awesome and interesting to go over there, hang out for a while, and do my thing. It was very awesome, and now that I'm back, I have tons of new videos to do, tons of new updates, and I'll get all into those as the week goes on, of course, and of course, obviously, I'll be making more updates discussing my vacation and of course my channel and future podcasts, either in mine or on the podcast that I do with EvilScar23. Just be on the lookout for that, specifically to the podcast with EvilScar23, because the story that I have of the shit that went down in Las Vegas is a story that you're gonna have to listen to. That will be very intriguing and awesome. It's going to be hysterical. I can't wait for everyone to hear it if you are just somewhat interested to know what went down there. That being said, there were a lot of news and updates that went down for movies and various other kind of craziness that went down in between the last video I did and now as I was in vacation. And one of the most unfortunate, depressing things that stand out to mind was, of course, the unfortunate death of Wes Craven. Wes Craven, who, of course, for everyone who knows, is the horror master, the creator of Freddy Krueger, just a father of horror and horror cinema. And he was an amazing filmmaker and just an all-around awesome, interesting dude. He was a great filmmaker in and of itself, and he was a very intelligent writer, and unfortunately he passed, I want to say, on August 30th due to brain cancer, which is very unfortunate. However, I wanted to just dedicate this top 5 to his memory and the amazing movies he made, because even though majority of these great filmmakers or great actors or whoever pass away, it's just good to know that they left a legacy behind that we can look back with fond memories and continuously watch. And Wes Craven definitely made amazing movies, and that's what this top 5 is all about. Originally, this top 5 was going to be another Wonder Woman top 5. However, I'm here just to dedicate it to a great guy, Wes Craven, and of course, this is going to be my subjective top 5 list of the my personal favorite and the best movies I personally think he ever wrote and or directed. And of course, on top of that, it is subjective. It's my personal list. I know there's tons of movies that Wes Craven was a part of that may or may not be on this list. So of course, in the comment section below, let me know what is your top 5 Wes Craven movies list. That being said, let's go on to number 5 on this list. Number 5 has to go to Last House on the Left. Last House on the Left is an amazing, badass movie that definitely put Wes Craven on the spot and really, showed us who he really was, and he just totally dominated with this movie. This movie is, of course, during that era of like how horror movies, specifically that kind of genre of horror filmmaking, was kind of like it sets up like a porn, but then it just goes real hardcore and really graphic. I don't want to go into too much spoiler territory with this movie or any other movies, but that being said, Last House on the Left is an amazing, awesome movie that really put him on the map. But that being said, going off in number 5 and into number 4 has to go to Swamp Thing. Now, Swamp Thing, for everyone out there may look, especially in the horror community or any kind of boo movie fan, a lot of people would consider Swamp Thing as to be like this really interesting or really, odd necessity back in the day in the early 80s of like this B movie or C movie, like science fiction horror movie. But at the end of the day, for those of you who don't know, Swamp Thing, the movie that was directed by Wes Craven, is actually a comic book movie. Swamp Thing is based off the Swamp Thing DC comic book character, not to be confused by Man-Thing, obviously, and of course is an amazing comic book movie. At the end of the day, I don't really personally think holds up, especially with the comic book movies of today, because the comic book movies of today completely are the polar opposites of its, 70s and 80s and 90s counterparts because of its cinematic universes and all that craziness. But it just, when I go back and look at that movie, there's just a lot of cool things to look back on, whether it be the atmosphere, whether it be the design of Swamp Thing, his relationship with the other characters, the graphicness of the story, just everything that Wes Craven put into directing this movie is just really awesome. And at the end of the day, it's kind of cool going back and looking at a specific director's filmography and knowing they directed a movie that was a comic book movie. I mean, that's kind of crazy. I mean, Wes Craven directed a comic book movie. That's something that you don't really hear a lot nowadays, but he did it, and it's a freaking interesting movie that a lot of people should go back and check out, especially if you're a DC fan, or you're a nostalgic comic book guy, or you're just a hardcore fan of, like, anything that Alan Moore has ever done. You need to check out Swamp Thing. That being said, moving off of that, going to number 3 on this list of my top 5 favorite Wes Craven movies has to go down to Red Eye. Red Eye is a movie that Wes Craven didn't technically write, but he did direct, and I just love it. It's a very interesting, it's a suspenseful thriller, just intense movie between Rachel McAdams' character, and as you all know, I'm a hardcore fan of Rachel McAdams. I think she kills it, especially nowadays. And she just destroys with the movie, with Cillian Murphy, who also, the Scarecrow himself, fucking destroys together in this one movie about these characters on a freaking plane, and how, you know, intense this one dude can be in a plane next to this one person, and how the world has this little tiny event, has this gigantic stakes. It's just really awesome. Every time I see it, I just have to remember what you can do with a pen. The pen of destiny. It's going to just destroy me forever. But however, that being said, Red Eye is an amazing movie that you should definitely check out. It's an awesome movie with great performances by the specific main characters played by Rachel McAdams and Cillian Murphy. And Wes Craven dominated with this movie, of course. And moving off of that, let's get into number 2 on this list. Now, the top 2 spots were specifically very difficult to pick and choose from, because they both stand out to me as equals, and for specifically what they did. And Wes Craven did an amazing job with recreating the horror genre, if you will, and not a lot of people can say they did it twice. And Wes Craven definitely was the guy who recreated the horror genre twice, and he did it with these 2 movies. And first up, on number 2 on this list, has to go to Scream. Scream is just one of my favorite horror movies of all time, for whichever reason you go with, whether it be, you know, the picking at fun of horror genre, whether it be the meta-ness of the references of characters, whether it be the characters' developments and the character of Ghostface and the high stakes that everyone's going through, and just the popularity of, like, TV at that time and era. It's just in the 90s, of course. I'm a product of the 90s, so I have to freaking love everything from that era. But at the end of the day, Scream just holds out as that movie that redefined the horror genre for very specific reasons, and it still stands up as a really awesome, badass movie. Now, of course, granted, maybe the sequels, and especially that MTV series, may have destroyed the legacy that Scream created, but at the end of the day, it still stands on its own 2 feet as an awesome epic, and I love it. But that being said, let's get into some specific honorable mentions that did not get on this list. Number 1 on my honorable mentions, Hills of Eyes. Main reason that it wasn't on this list because I like the remake more. I know that's blasphemy. Remake's better than the original. You should be stabbed. But I can't help it. That remake is just awesome. But the movie, the original, is still cool. Moving off of that, more honorable mentions. Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, The People Under the Stairs, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, Vampire in Brooklyn, Wishmaster, Scream 2, Scream 4, Dracula 2 Ascension, and of course the rest of the other Dracula movies that he was a part of. And of course, My Soul to Take. I know that movie may not, you know, really vibe well with a lot of people, but for some reason, every time I go back and look at it, I enjoy watching it sometimes. I don't know why. But that being said, moving off of that, and also a really cool TV show, Castle, which, you know, Wes Craven did not technically create, but it was kind of cool to see him actually a part of that show. I don't know why. But that being said, moving off of that, and all the amazing stuff that he did, which of course I'm sure a lot of people would consider those movies on their list, I have to go to my number 1 pick, and my number 1 pick has to go down to the original Nightmare on Elm Street. The Nightmare on Elm Street just stands out as just an amazing, badass movie that not a lot of other horror movies can really touch. Even franchise horror movies like Halloween and or Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street is on its own entire different league. and it just destroys. It still holds up as an amazing, I was about to say comic book movie, but horror movie, it still holds up. It's still graphic. It's still intense. Robert Englund's performance as Freddy Krueger is dominant. Everyone a part of it is just, amazing and phenomenal to watch and listen to. The theory behind the dream sequences and how dreams can destroy you, and how it can become a reality and kill you, and how Freddy's this dream monster who can never really die, and all this real crazy stuff. The horror genre was always going to be its own thing, but I don't think it would be as popular if it wasn't for a Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street completely redefined horror movies. Once again, Wes Craven was the guy that did it. He was a true master at horror because he redefined what the horror genre is and what it could be, and he did it twice with these two movies, Scream and A Nightmare on Elm Street. And Nightmare on Elm Street still holds up. It's still scary, it's still intense, it's still fun, it's still entertaining, and it's still graphic, and I love the special effects and everything that goes along with that movie and its existing franchise. But that being said, overall, that's my top 5, Wes Craven movies. Wes Craven was a legend, and wherever he is, I hope he rests in peace, because he did an amazing job at creating awesome movies, and I hope we all can just celebrate in his legacy and watch the amazing filmography that he created for himself, and we can just love it. That being said, comment below. Let me know what your personal top 5 Wes Craven movies list was. Of course, this is my personal list. You can make yours in the comments below. Of course, I'm pretty sure there's tons of movies that he directed or was a part of that wasn't on this list, but that's why you comment below. Let me know what your personal list is. And of course, it's all subjective. It's my top 5. But that being said, Wes Craven, rest in peace, sir. And at the end of the day, I love these movies, and I hope you guys, if you've not seen any one of these movies, definitely go check it out. They're all really awesome, and they're very interesting, and I definitely don't suggest watching any of the remakes to any of these movies, with the exception of Hills of Eyes. That's the only remake you're allowed to watch. All the other ones, don't watch it. I'm just saying, the original will do you better. But that being said, comment below. Let me know what you personally think about this top 5 list. Let me know your personal thoughts on Wes Craven as a person and or director as a whole. Of course, follow me on Twitter and Instagram if you've not done so already. Subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already. Hope you guys enjoyed. This has been John 12.